All my Korean friends, 𝗂𝗢𝗓𝗄 is a dog.
Yeah.
𝗂𝗢𝗓𝗄𝐀𝗯. We're familiar with DataBento. We like those guys. They're just one of dozens of companies that do that. I don't think we'll do too much open source. Probably a little bit. Yeah, crypto is something we're interested in. A smaller and different market from other financial products. We have a little tiny bit of crypto functionality, but I mean, it would be nice to have like full crypto functionality. Certainly would be, but it's not something we really support right now. But I am happy to look at stocks for everybody. I just don't know that I should be just trading nonstop. Well, Shubham, I mean, we're going to do India, and Bloomberg does India. So yeah, Asian markets are really important to me, Vladimir. I used to trade Asia very heavily. I mean, even this product took off really well. Dr. Gupta took off with a lot of users. Our other product took off with some revenue, and then this product took off with a lot of revenue. You work on the products that, most profitable, I think. Futures are hard. They're well arbitraged. It's not easy to just trade futures. I'm not that interested in Liquidia. We're mostly not working on Gupta. I think AI doctors will be very important. I just don't know when, how. It's kind of a tricky problem. I'm still shorting QC. It's a really overvalued sector. It's going to drop. I'm very convinced about that. At the same time, it's, you are trading multiple factors at once there. So just try to keep that in mind that, you have a big part of it is just retail gambling. So that basically makes it sort of this macro momentum thing as much as it is about quantum computing. I mostly self-learned coding, yeah. Merck going to buy SpringWorks. There you go. MicroStrategy is definitely looking precarious with Bitcoin under 100. I like HIMS. I don't know about Tem. Yeah, MicroStrategy is a disaster. Or strategy, sorry. I just think it makes Bitcoin look bad too. Relax, JJ. I'm still going to watch the positions I have on now. That's number one. Number two, you don't tell me what to do. At the right price, I'm definitely interested in
Order-filled.
Shorting all this stuff again. It tires me out. I'm sitting there, I'm trying to hang out with my girlfriend, and I'm just staring at portfolio screens all day.
Order-filled.
There's a reason I don't do that stuff anymore. And the 24/7 nature of it in crypto makes it even more exhausting. I don't do any VC stuff really. I've never made money.
Order partially
investing
filled.
in my friend's stuff. Bearchain. Well, are they selling at a loss if they worked for their tokens? Is that a loss? Oof, 550. Well, it's come back. It was in the 4s. Wow. AI16Z is going to 0. I wouldn't short Carvana yet. I don't know it well enough, but Merck will buy anything in oncology that moves. They're so desperate to keep the Keytruda narrative going in the next decade. Yeah, I mean, PLTR is somewhat tied to JD Vance, I would agree. I thought Opdivo was approved before, I'm certain it was, 2214. Is it possible Keytruda was approved first? I don't think so. Was Keytruda approved first? I do a little bit of coding. I think every investor has to be very patient. Most of the coding is done by my colleagues who are much better at it. Keytruda might have been approved first. That really doesn't square with my memory. Really doesn't square with my memory. Yeah, it looks like Keytruda was first. It seems so weird to me. I remember Opdivo first. They were right. They were very close. 3 months apart. So I could have sworn Opdivo got melanoma before everybody. What was the 5th PD1 to come out? Anybody remember? Wasn't it? I think it was Bavencio. And how about 6? Oh, Libtayo maybe? That might be the other way around. We'll look at Intuitive, yeah. Yeah, I guess a bunch are in phase 3. Novartis has one, J&J has one, 7 PD1s. Yeah, then there's, isn't there Checkpoint Therapeutics? Doesn't Beijing have one too? Lynparza, 1444, that doesn't sound right. I don't know much about cybersecurity. It does seem like a permagrowth space. Ever since CloudStrikes, who's the big Cloudflare? Ever since Cloudflare's gigantic success, I think it's attracted a lot of startups. 5-alpha reductase, for BPH, I guess, it also is for hair loss, but it's not something I would take. Everyone has a little bit of a different side effect. Some people, it's pretty bad. There are no other AKT inhibitors. There are plenty of PIK inhibitors. I'm not a huge AlphaFold fan. Protein folding isn't a big problem in biotech. Chegg, we sold. Chegg went up a lot and we sold. When you buy a stock, you hope it goes up, right? And then at some price, it's worth selling. That's how I do it. 𝗍𝗓𝗏 is doing fairly well. Yeah, I'm looking at AstraZeneca. 𝗐𝗡𝗎𝗓, 471. Breztri, that's an interesting new drug. Safenlo, the first, well, it's not the first technically, but I guess the second lupus antibody. Beyfortus, the new RSV drug. Big numbers for Beyfortus. Complement inhibitors, Ultomiris, pretty good. Soliris, yeah, I guess they've grown together. If you add them up. Strensiq, massive number. Even 𝗄𝗀𝐬𝐤 is impressive. That drug took forever to take off. This number doesn't even look right, though. Some of their numbers are just like the 𝗠𝗏𝗄𝗧𝗏 as well. I don't know if they're including some one-timers or... they got a $600 million sales milestone for 𝗠𝗏𝗄𝗧𝗏. I'm going to back that out. I like the Akira data. QMCO is just too toxic, man. Like, first off, you know, it's dropped a lot. And then second off, I just don't want to look at the fundamentals of this thing. I mean, you're right. We should probably look at it, but it's often been hard to borrow as well. No, Quantum is a really small market cap. I don't think they have any shorts outstanding. Shares outstanding, excuse me. No, quantum computing does not do anything useful yet. Yeah, I covered some IonQ and it dropped, and I'm reshorting it now. Yeah, 100 million market cap's kind of hard to play with. A really strong revenue growth for AstraZeneca. I wouldn't say I was ever long CRISPR in general, but it's got its shortcomings. Yeah, there's a lot of tutorials on how short selling works. Should not be hard to find. It basically is very easy to understand once you go through some of the tutorials. In essence, you have to borrow some shares from somebody. As long as you promise to give them back, they will lend you the shares, and then you can sell them as if you own them, but you don't own them, you borrowed them. And then when you buy them later, you captured a price differential. Imagine you sold it at 10, then you bought it back at 5, and you return the shares, the same amount of shares to the guy you borrowed it from, and you made $5 in the meantime. I don't mind shorting Rigetti, honestly, even if it's down. You figure out it looks like the vol of these things is just dying. So I really like the short. Everyone's just giving up, I think, on quantum, which is... Who are in the Magnificent Seven? You got NVIDIA, Apple, Google, Meta. NVIDIA, Apple, Google, Meta, Amazon. I don't even know who the other two are. Yeah, that's right, Asher. Tesla? Okay. Microsoft? Did I miss... Is Netflix in there? Did I say Microsoft? I guess if I had to buy one of those... I don't like any of those stocks.
Order filled. Order cancelled.
Maybe Amazon? Maybe NVIDIA? And my rankings, I guess, would be Amazon, Google, NVIDIA, Microsoft, Meta, then Apple and Tesla. Although Tesla might do really, really well. Those stocks are the market. Apple just feels so tired to me. I have a lot of faith in Zuck. Rigetti, IonQ, Quantum Computing Inc., Anavex, Cassava, Galectin. The Baggy 8. And MicroStrategy is the king. Meme coins? Oh, yeah. We got those. We got Trump, Bonk, Pepe, Dog with Hat, AI16Z, SPX 6900. Can't leave that one out. You try to buy that and you've got all your chromosomes. It says error. You have too many chromosomes to buy Fartcoin. I should get that. I should make that. Yeah, don't forget Peanut. There's so many more. Nero, Turbo, Act One. I mean, Mog. I like how these people are like, you have to respect the power of the meme. Like, what? You know how many memes existed in the history of civilization? Yeah, I've seen that, Cyril. I was one of the first people in that. Yeah, people are getting sick of quantum. So I'm really happy about that. Rigetti's still trading a lot. I agree. It's not number 1 or 2. And it looks like it's going to fall well short of last week's number. But, you know, this is a tricky stock. You got to be careful. Big Bear has replaced Rigetti. Yeah, I'm still pretty bearish. I mean, with earnings season mostly done, I would say that clearly the economy is not doing that badly. Everything's sort of fine. Some pockets of weakness, but that's kind of normal.
Order filled.
There's always some weakness somewhere. But in general, everything's kind of moving fine. Slow, reasonable growth, some super strength in tech. We're kind of in a Goldilocks state to some extent. No, I wish I'd gotten to software. I mean, I don't have that many regrets looking back in life. I started off developing software as a kid. And I would try to write serious software. Like I wrote genetic software.
Order
I wrote,
partially filled.
Chess software.
Order filled.
I wrote, very early AI for games.
Partially.
I liked software a lot. So this was basic. I was a basic expert, but it's funny, there's these people saying, well, what is this 19-year-old? What possibly could he be an expert in? And Paul Graham, the founder of YC, said, well, at 19, I was an expert in BASIC. And, I was an expert in QBasic. I mean, I don't think there's a single keyword that I didn't know. The problem is that I didn't know computer science. And there's no 19-year-old that you can hack all day, but you don't learn every inch of computer science just hacking around a computer. It doesn't work that way. You got to study formal computer science, context-free grammars and finite automatons, and every data structure you can imagine, and all this theory. So you got to decide between practice and theory. And if you go too heavy on practice, well, you could sit there trying to code all day, but you're never going to get anything too complicated done, because the complicated things require some fairly advanced thoughts, different design patterns, hooks, reducers, cache, things that may not easily come to mind. Thinking about the complexity of some of the things you're doing, thinking about bottlenecks and different principles of, okay, let me find the worst, the biggest bottleneck in my software. How much is that actually going to speed up the software? In the old days, you had a lot of memory management and a lot of different things that were, not problems today. You might do some case switch with 15 cases instead of making a dictionary. There's a whole lot
Order
of
partially filled.
That's really early days, but still, it's not just about the effort. It's also what you learn and how you go about learning it. Those things are boring. Young people want to make cool stuff. They don't want to sit and study necessarily too much theory. They'll study a little bit. Young people are
partially filled.
Motivated. They don't have a lot else to do.
Filled.
They don't have kids. They don't have a job.
Partially filled.
They can. I used to love being that age and just study anything I wanted all day, all night. But of course, like everybody's saying here, youth is often wasted on the young. We spend time on World of Warcraft. Sure, I played tons of video games when I was a kid. I spent time on forums and channels and chatting with girls in my high school. Yeah, of course. That was what I spent time doing, playing guitar, which I don't regret. Chatting with my buddies more than probably the girls. I wish I was chatting with the girls. I was chatting with a lot of the girls, and I didn't realize that they were the ones who liked me. They were my friends, but I wasn't interested in them. The girls that ignored me, I was interested in. So that was, pretty common. But yeah, I spent a lot of time on the internet more than I spent on
partially filled.
Real computing, which I regret. The internet was so cool to me that, there were so many ways to waste time, just as there is today. So how do you get your kids to be interested in things that are cool? My girlfriend went to MIT, and, I asked her if she spent a lot of time with boys in high school and stuff like that. And she said no. She was mostly playing around on the computer, and nobody forced her. That's kind of how you get to become a superstar. For me, I wasn't as efficient as I look back. I really wasn't that efficient. I could have really mastered a lot of things. I did master some things, but I could have mastered more things. But you can't look back and regret. There's also that saying of no fun in games makes Jack a dull boy, or something like that. And all work and no play. All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy, from the Shining movie. And that's kind of what 𝗣𝗡𝗍𝒂's whole idea was that, white America doesn't, have their kids studying and working like Asian America. Well, yeah, that's true. Is there a downside to that? Probably. I'm not too much of a polymath. That phrase, I think if your ego is very big, you want to aspire to that, but it's better to be humble. And, yeah, Hunter College is a CUNY university. I know I guess the president, I think she might have stepped down. So there's maybe a new president, but I went to Hunter College High School. My kids, I just want them to be healthy and happy. I don't really care if they become financial gurus or programming gurus. Would I like that? Of course I would. But, I just looking at my own family, one or one and a half, our 4 kids were really, really interested in business. So, and technical work. So at the end of the day, like, it's not for everyone. My girlfriend's family, it's 1 out of 3. So if they become bag holders, they become bag holders. It's no son of mine will be a baggie. But Dad, I found this on StockTwits. It looks really promising. That stock you're talking about? Yeah? But they're doing AI. Yes. They added AI to their name last year. Yes. Isn't AI the next big thing? Yes. For everyone but that company. But no, it's in all seriousness, I think for kids to be interested in stocks is great. Even if they're going to be bag holders, that's normal. I mean, what kind of kid is, coming out, slinging great stock picks? Not hard. I mean, it's not easy for anyone to do that. My imagination ran wild with these companies and what they were up to. I loved Microsoft. The whole idea that this guy was like this evil
𝗤𝗏𝗑𝗢𝗢.
to me was so
Order
cool.
partially filled.
People hated Bill Gates so much. How could this guy be
𝗤𝗏𝗑𝗢𝗢.
Because I kind of experienced that as a young academic star. I could see other kids, and
𝗤𝗏𝗑𝗢𝗢.
I'd always get a perfect score or something. I'd see the other kids looking at me sideways. I knew the heat. And I knew when time came as I got older to get into business, the same thing was going to happen. So I sympathized with Bill Gates. Everyone's hating you because you're too good. You raised the bar for everyone else. I loved that. Haters rest in peace. I would have done student government if you actually had power. Yeah, Hunter's okay. The dream was that we could make it at UCLA or UC Berkeley. It requires a lot of money and a lot of state funding. The states don't want to invest in CUNY. I use a Philco keyboard. I didn't get to short any jail stool. I'm sort of sick of trading, to be frank. It just takes up so much time and it's so stressful. I mean, I'm pretty good at pharmaceutical investing. IonQ is not real in any way, shape, or form. I kind of like HIMS. They're growing really fast, but anytime you deal with a growth stock like that, you have, it's precarious. The numbers keep going up. It gets harder to grow. And, the consequences are, scarier as it goes up. If you're wrong, it's going to fall. Stop loss can be tricky if it opens down 30% or something on a bad quarter. There's a Netflix special about me that was filmed, but maybe canned. I don't know. I'm not, if I was interested in just promoting myself all the time, I'm sure I could be a much bigger public figure. I always ask, what would John Carmack do? John Carmack barely did any interviews other than Lex. All right. Some requests are Tesla, CMPX, Moderna, and Merck. Look at any of those. I'm not sure I have a conclusion on AstraZeneca. It's a lot of work I have to do. I've always liked the management teams. They're really good. Maybe the best management team. One of the best management teams in pharma. Merck, 8781. No, I think our Venus is just too complicated. Like it's not even too complicated. There's just not enough information. All right, so Intuitive Surgical has a 212 billion market cap, making it arguably the biggest medtech company in the world. So this is a robotic surgery company that's not that old. Amazing how much this little robot surgery company could do. Oh, they're intuitive now. They're no longer Intuitive Surgical.
Partially filled. 𝗤𝗏𝗑𝗢𝗢.
So they make more money from the instruments than the machines themselves. Interesting. Any surgeons in the house? Or somebody who works at a hospital that's seen one of these bad boys? Okay, so revenue growth accelerated for these guys. It was actually kind of in the doldrums for a little bit. So I wonder what got revenue growth to accelerate again. It's fairly atypical, but it's happened before. We can think of a few companies like that, maybe Facebook. Once growth starts to slow, it's usually over. But the Intuitive story has been a very peculiar one in general. Yeah, so what a crazy stock. It's $8 billion in revenue. It's 25 times revenue. Does that sound right? Am I missing something? Like there's a stock split? I mean, they just had a growth problem 2 years ago. Stock splits are very optical. They don't really do anything. They're somewhat designed for retail investors, but even then, I'm not sure they have any practical effect anymore. That's the theory, but with fractional trading now, it's kind of yeah, I don't know about the options thing either. Yeah, I guess it can allow a company doesn't really care about its options liquidity. Doesn't help the company out. Yeah, I just don't like shorting good companies. Palantir is a really good company. You don't know what's possible, you know, what they're coming up with. And revenue can grow even faster. And then what do? If the revenue never grows again, never grows faster than it currently is, then I would agree. You have a decent reason to short it, but you don't know what they're up to. It's not a very transparent company. IonQ is not a good company, no. The whole point about management is that management takes the company's capital and recycles it into high returning projects. And a really good management, take NVIDIA, for example. The numbers of NVIDIA wouldn't necessarily have told you what was going to happen. You know, that they would go into a hyper growth period. You had to understand the products, understand tech, understand a lot of things. Now, again, part of NVIDIA's success was an accident, and happy accident, of course, but it was also being prepared for the deep learning boom and creating a product for that marketplace, which was the server products. Those were really the first products to address that space in a dedicated way. And building the CUDA ecosystem for gaming allowed the CUDA ecosystem for deep learning to flourish. So great management still, but part of good management is when you take advantage of the opportunities that come your way by accident or unintentionally, however you want to say it. So yeah, NVIDIA is well positioned for robotics, self-driving cars, AGI. You know, there's a lot of things that are still on the table there. At the same time, you know, some of these things may take years. Some of them may come tomorrow. We don't know. And that's why if you were at the forefront of things like robotics and you know what these machines can do or will do, and you know when they're going to come out, you could probably do really well with NVIDIA, but we don't necessarily know what's going to happen with robotics. Is that a 2025 thing or a 2026 thing, or is it more of a 2030 or 2035 thing? We just don't know. So this is interesting. So let's look at the last little while for this company. All right, so we got Q1 2020. Rapid growth here. They had 72% revenue growth, although that looked like a unusually bad time last time. So call that average 40%. Then, you know, it's kind of spotty after that. I mean, it was around 11% on average throughout 2023. And now you've had a last quarter 25% revenue growth. So accelerated quite a bit there, but not really clear. Let's see if they give guidance. Not really that clear what is substantiating the gigantic valuation. Could it be a new product? Could it be what exactly? It's a Philco Magis Touch 3. I think it's brown. Intuitive Surgical, ISRG. Are you looking at the right ticker, PHAR? Yeah, it's only traded 1,000 shares today. That's farming in Netherlands. That one trades more. That traded 3 million shares today. You have to go over to Netherlands to trade it. What I would do is I would look at the Netherlands stock and convert it. And then usually a market maker will trade with you at the like euro equivalent. But yeah, I think it might also be smart to ignore the US stock and just do. Okay, so let's look at the annual revenue growth rate picture for Intuitive. You know, it's been a really solid company. 2 billion, 2.7 billion, 3.1, so 16%, then to 3.7, 19%, 4.5, 20%. They had one down year in 2020, where they were down 3%, but rebounded quite strongly there, 31% revenue growth to 5.7 billion. That was 2021. Then to 6.2 billion, only 9% revenue growth there. 2023, 14%, and 2024, 17%, jumping from 6.2 to 7.1 to 8.4. So average revenue growth rate over that period of 16%, really strong. Does that merit 20 times sales? Probably. it seems like it could all be priced in, but if they keep growing at something like that, I think they'd. And the surgery market is enormous, right? So, if they could keep growing at 15%, you'd be pretty happy to pay that kind of a multiple, because you'd end up with, really big earnings number. But yeah, I agree, some of it's priced in for sure. Yeah, it's hard to get too much upside here, if any. They would have to start growing at 20% or something like that. It's a lot like Palantir in that sense, right? It's like, do you want to bet against the company that is doing this well, hoping that they stumble, but it gets more and more expensive as they continue to exit. So it's sort of implying that they will, it looks like the stock price is implying that they'll grow 20% for a little while there, or high teens, like 18, 19%. And then, it's a curve that's implied. It's not just one growth number, right? So, but you're basically trying to draw the implicit curve of what is implied by the marketplace. The stock market is sending you this kind of message. It's coded in math, but it's basically saying, okay, this is what I think is going to happen over the long run. And who knows, maybe margins can grow or something like that. But yeah, so the market sort of feels like it'll grow 20%, which it's growing 25 right now. Then 15, then 10, and then slow to maturity, which is, quite reasonable. That is probably what's going to happen. So I don't see why they're not going to go from 20 to 0. And if they go from 20 to 30, which they very well might, there'd be upside. So this looks like somewhat well-balanced on upside downside. There's some stories I just can't tell you. Well, you need to know the EGFR and the ROS1 mutational status. What's the other ROS1 thing? ALK. Yeah, so Da Vinci for what? Prostatectomy and stuff like that. But they do hysterectomy too, right? I think it'll be a while before OpenAI makes its own chips that are really great, but I'm sure it's a good idea.